Howdy, y'all, and welcome to the EEARSS Podcast produced by TERRIER TV. I am Alligator Robb. We are joined with Bill today, and no Miss Cindy with us today, Mr. Bill.
Nope, not today.
Yeah, I guess Cindy's got the crud.
Under the weather.
Yeah, so that's pretty rough. But okay, before I start, let me get into this real quick. I want to say thank you to Miss Edna Wilson with Celebrate Remax Aerospace for sponsoring our program. Edna and her team love Titusville and the Space Coast. They're dedicated to helping their town thrive. They know buying or selling a home is a really big deal. They promise to help you make your homeownership dreams come true. Visit ednawilson.com. Yeah, they're a huge blessing to us and, of course,
absolutely.
This podcast. So, yeah, super thankful for them. What's been going on with you today, buddy?
Absolutely. Today, just a little excitement on campus. Had a little excitement. The kids are a little worked up. But then nothing much. I mean, it's the last quarter of the year, of the school year.
Yeah, it's over with soon, isn't it?
And, well, not soon enough. It's 9 weeks. And it's a long stretch.
Okay.
A long stretch with, we get Good Friday off, but that's it.
Do you have any more testing left? Is there more testing?
Oh, that's when all the testing happened.
I thought it was end of the year last year.
In April, toward the end of April, and then May, testing all the time.
So basically, if you weren't burnt out before that, you're going to be burnt out then.
Yeah. And the problem is...
And the students too, I'm sure.
Well, not everybody's testing at the same time. So you've got like a third of your class pulled out. So you got to figure out what you're going to do with them. And, so it has some challenges.
Yeah, I guess.
It is challenging, and you got to figure it out. And then summertime will be here before you know it.
Yep, and then next thing you know, it'll be the start of next year.
Yep.
Just,
Starting
man, it seems like it goes
again.
faster and faster.
Be football season.
Indeed. I'm looking forward to football season.
But, I have a theory, okay?
Tell
My
me.
theory is, and I tell this to kids because they're like, yeah, years seem to go by faster. Well, the whole idea is when you were 4 years old, 1 year was 25% of your life. Okay?
I never thought about that way, but it
when
makes
you're
sense.
40 years old, it's 2.5% of your life.
Oh, now we're just getting
Yeah,
we're getting hardcore
it's all
into it.
mathematics,
I like
dude.
it. You're breaking it down where it makes sense to anybody.
Yeah, because it's just a smaller. It's the same amount of time, but it's a smaller portion of your overall experience.
I don't reckon I've thought about it quite like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Just
We did
a
a
perspective.
Safety program today for the city of Rockledge, down there at Rockledge City Hall, which
okay.
we do that every year for them. It's always really neat. The thing is, it always ends up being a bunch of guys trying to play tricks on each other. There's never quite the rubber snake being tossed on people, but people poking people that they know are scared of snakes. And this year I was able to hold that off a little bit. There was a couple of guys last year that you could see they're like, man, I want to have that interaction with a reptile of some kind that I'm terrified of, so I can really get past it.
Right.
And I had them sit up in the corner this year where they could have their back go wall and nobody could sneak up to them and on top of them, and it was really good. Had some good interactions. Tell you what, you ever want to get a bunch of grown men to jump out of their pants, you bring a snapping turtle and you drop them in the middle of the room.
Oh my goodness! Yes.
You drop a big old common snapping turtle right in the middle of the room and watch everybody kind of go, whoa! Like, man,
No, I think I would
like
do
lightning
that too.
bolts being shot. It's crazy.
No way.
Few things make me happier, but that's just it's really those interactions with that wildlife.
Okay.
I mean, it's why we do what we do, through our research we do. It's so special. And to be able to share that with people and give them actual real safety knowledge, the guys that are out there in the field,
right?
It's where it's at, man. I love it.
Oh yeah,
it's jam up.
That way, if they come across it out there, they at least have some basic knowledge. They know.
We're normally covering snakes, and this year we wanted to go kind of above and beyond that. We always do some gator stuff too, of course, but this year it was nice to throw we threw a diamondback terrapin and a snapping turtle into the mix.
Now, what's the thing that they come across the most?
Snakes. They come across pretty much. These guys are trimming ditches and doing sanitation things. It's roadway and sanitary, and they run across all kinds of weird stuff. They always have pictures they're showing us from things they've came across. Like, what is this? Do I need to worry about that? And remember, 4 venomous species in the state or on the Space Coast. If you know those 4 venomous species, you can play with everything else if you want to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
there's only 4.
Always my ongoing joke. Yeah.
There's only 4.
If you know those 4 species, you're good to go. And
wow.
they all but one have one horizontal line down their head. The rest of them all pretty much have stitches up and down their mouth.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just simple things. We go over a presentation and then jump into it. So it kind of is what it is.
Okay.
You ready to chat with our guest?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. Today, you ever see those commercials where they say the most interesting man in the world, and they have this guy that's sitting back with a beard, and he's drinking a beer, doing something silly?
Right.
I think today we might actually have the most interesting man in the world on the podcast.
Okay, prove it.
I'm going there. Okay, here we go. So today on the podcast, we are joined by Mr. Stan Pengelly. Stan, how you doing, buddy?
Very well. How are you doing, Frank?
Doing awesome, bub. So I've been knowing you for quite a few years now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and I kid you guys not when I say Stan is a very interesting man. You have some of the coolest hobbies. You have a very interesting line of work that you're in now. You came from a very interesting line of work, and man, you do all this traveling and photography, and you always looking fancy, Stan. Between the neckties and the bow ties, and man, you always got it going on, Stan.
Well,
got it going on.
Unfortunately, you mean interesting and not in the Chinese sense, where I have an interesting life where it's full of all kinds of problems. No, I've had a really good life.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, and your journey over here to Florida.
Well, I was born and raised in Sacramento County. Graduated high school in '75, and decided to go off in the Air Force. I went off the Air Force, and that's where I got the bug for traveling. Because after basic training and all that, I went to England in around April '77, and later on that year, we had a deployment down to Iran, believe it or not. Just a month after they had their first anti-government riots. So we were down there and had a great time with the Iranians. I mean, I know this sounds really weird considering how our relationships are now with Iran, but Iranians are extraordinarily nice people. Okay. 40 years later, we go back again, and even more so.
Remember you telling me that the experiences you've had there were different than what anybody could have ever imagined.
Yes, there are about 30-plus countries I've been into. The Iranians are probably the nicest.
Okay.
I know that sounds really weird.
That's saying something.
Yeah, I know that sounds really odd, but anyway, so I was in the Air Force 76 to 80, and then I decided to get into engineering. But while I was going to high school, I didn't do any kind of college prep. So when I started in February of 1980, I was looking for a very long road just to get up to the engineering schools. So it took 2.5 years to get up to that. Started the engineering school, got an AA in math, science, and engineering. Then in '84, then 1987, finished a mechanical engineering degree at still in Sacramento area. Then I went to work for a rocket firm, designing and building rocket engines. And they decided to move me to Huntsville, Alabama, believe it or not. Went there. I was doing a little rocket engine design called air turbo ramjet. Not many people know what that thing is, but it's a very interesting design. And then I jumped ship from the company I was working for another company called Boeing. You've probably heard of them.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Yeah. And, I started off doing. We were testing air breathing engines, and I was doing software design and testing and technical writing with that. That panned out after about 2 years, and then went over to the space station side. At the time, it was called Space Station Freedom, which is what Ronald Reagan called it. And about a year after that, they turned it into International Space Station. And when the Clintons came in, I worked on first ground support equipment, which sounds kind of boring, but you can't do anything in space without ground support equipment. And it was really, really interesting. And then from that, I went on to doing some flight equipment stuff. And then I took a job with in 1999, September 1999, came to Kennedy Space Center to work again on ground support equipment. Now this time with the components of the space station there, putting liquid anhydrous ammonia into the articles and testing that sort of thing, getting them ready for flight. And after several years of that, right around June of '05, decided I didn't want to do that anymore. I'd had enough. Oh, and while I was doing that, I got a master's degree in it's called Space Systems or Spacecraft Mission Analysis and Design.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. I know it's quite a mouthful. It's not like saying doctor of jurisprudence, but
no, it's a lot. What from that background you have, what are your thoughts on where the space program is at now? I mean, literally, while we were just sitting here a few minutes ago, we heard a rocket go up.
Right, that was a SpaceX.
It's amazing how it's changed from then to where it is now.
Yes, what is happening now with SpaceX is what I very badly wanted to happen back in '87. Aerospace at the time was too bureaucratic. More people wanted to do paperwork and go to meetings rather than actually get something done. Due to various rules in every company in you might say the legacy aerospace companies, engineers can't touch things. So about all they can do is pick up a pen or maybe move a computer mouse, but they can't actually move the hardware, touch the hardware, and work with tools and that sort of thing. That was extremely
handcuffing.
Very handcuffing. Yes. So
you saw options even then to what it's become now, where you guys could have maybe done some things to make it like way ahead of time.
Oh yes. For instance, I remember one particular time when I was in Huntsville. There was a box full of parts, and over there was the guy who designed those parts. The guy that designed the parts is over there. But for those parts to get from that bin over onto the equipment required months of paperwork to be written by an engineer and so forth and so on. But the man standing right there knew how to put that together. So over there is another big box of tools. Pick the tools up, go over there, put that in there, and be done in a couple of days. But no, it takes months and months and months, and of course that means lots and lots of money. And of course, as complex as anything is, there's more and more chance for delay.
Right.
And you probably heard the expression, failure is not an option. Okay. Well, if failure is not an option, then you're doomed for mediocrity.
Never thought about it that way.
That's true. Yeah, you're never gonna shoot.
The people who created SpaceX,
right?
They built in the fact that they're going to have failures, and they will accept that. Some people have said you learn more from your failures than you do successes.
I would agree. Yeah. I would agree.
Well, if you're terrified of ever making any kind of a mistake, then you're never going to get anything done.
You're right.
So what's going on with SpaceX comes about from people wanting to go ahead who accept mistakes and work on their hardware and get things done. The company I came from and under the agency that I was working with, those were not possible.
Interesting. Yeah, I know it's day and night different than the way it used to be, without a doubt. I never thought about it from those perspectives, but it makes a lot of sense.
Oh, yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. So you have recently, when you retired, tell us about that journey. What led you to what you're doing now?
Okay.
Because you made a huge jump out of one world, which you were one of the top-notch guys in, and jumped out of that, kind of almost washed your hands of it and said, you know what? I'm going to go do this stuff.
Well, when I first left working on space station and all that, to be frank, I went through a depression. And it took me several months to figure out what was going on and realize from the time I went into kindergarten through the time I got in June 2005, I'd always had a reason to get out of bed and go and do something because there was always had something going on. So when I left, there was really nothing going on. So I went through a depression, and I was reorganizing my head, trying to figure out what I want to do. And but I knew whatever I did would have nothing to do with engineering. Okay, with a new clean slate. Well, I was over in Orlando one time, and I was sitting in probably the Orlando Mall, Florida Mall, Florida Mall, or Mall of Millennia. And I had kind of a revelation. Most of the stores in the big malls like that tend to cater towards women. So I realized if I want to get out of engineering into something else and retail interested me, whatever I was going to get involved with would have to cater towards women, or at least they would be their primary customer. So I was hunting around for what would I do. My wife was up in Chicago area, and she needed to do something one day because she was on working during the night and had needed to do something during the day. So she went to a little shopping village like we have in Cocoa Village, and there was a guy there who had a retail store that sold olive oil and balsamic vinegar premium olive oil and balsamic vinegar. So I said, all right, I think I'll have this man as my mentor. So I went under him, and I built my own store, first in Cocoa Village, then one in Melbourne, downtown Melbourne. And I really like it. It's gets me going. And the biggest thing is I can stand behind the product and say, this is what it is, what I say it is. It's an excellent product. And what I found out is people don't know how to cook. So even though we're selling olive oil and balsamic vinegar, what we're primarily doing is we're trying to teach them how to cook. It's just the little things like how to make a vinaigrette, how to marinate something like that. And
which is much healthier cooking with that, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And I was going to look this up, but there was someone who spoke to a man who was in the, might say, the industrial food producing world, and this man's sole objective was get people to buy more and more processed foods. And he was asked if people are having problems with their health due to the processed foods they're having now, what would be the one thing they could do that would instantly help them with their health? And he said, cook for yourself.
Makes sense.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, once you learn how to cook for yourself, you know how much you've gone in, what's gone into the food. You tend to use less calories and that sort of thing. A lot of processed foods, like I'm just as bad about it. I need to eat something right now, so I go to a convenience store, pick it up, eat it on my way to the next place, and that sort of thing. Well, that's like 4, 5, 6, 7,000 calories right there. And a lot of it is fat and so forth. But if people learn how to cook for themselves and the calorie count comes down, the nutrition value goes up, you need less and less, let's say, vitamins, that sort of stuff. So I can stand behind that product and say that's the product and the service that's the best around you can have.
And how in the world do you go about sourcing that stuff?
I have a supplier in Oakland, California, and called Veronica Foods Company. And they go around to the different places. Like most of my olive oils come from this time of year from Europe, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Greece, and they find the best orchards and the best olives and best processing, and then they import them in, test them, make sure that they are what they say they are, and then they send them to me. And I sell them to people. What
an interesting world that is.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always wondered that. I've been meaning to ask you that for years, so I'm finally glad to be able to have a chance to do that. I always wondered, like, how in the world is there like an olive guy out there that, goes around testing olives?
Oh, I'm sure there's quite a few that do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, they're extremely good, but they're kind of like what Steve Jobs was for Apple. He was a fanatic, hard driving kind of people. They're the same way about olive oil. Okay, they're very, very high quality, and I know whenever I'm getting something from them that it is what it says it is.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can sell it to my customers and know that I'm giving them a premium product.
All right. So next question I got for you: when did you get into fashion? Because you're always known for looking good, having the necktie on or the bow tie.
Mm-hmm.
I know you typically do that on Thursdays. It's typically your Thursday thing.
Yeah.
Yep. So how long have you been into that, and what got you into it?
Oh gosh. Okay. I'm just gonna have to back up a little bit. Still with Boeing. Back in 1994, the CEO of the time, I think he was the CEO, or at least the president, changed the rules for how engineers could dress. You used to have a necktie and a sports jacket or something like that, and slacks and so forth, and that's how you went to work. And people could tell that's an engineer because of the way he's dressed. Well, in 94, he said, you don't need to do that anymore. I think it was from pressure from like Silicon Valley because everybody was going to T-shirts and so forth. Business casual. So everybody was happy, myself included, that we didn't have to wear this necktie because most engineers, myself included, would spend about 5 minutes dealing with this thing around the neck that all it was decorative, and this is just a hassle. Jump forward to 2004. I was getting ready to go to work at Kennedy Space Center, and I had this. I opened up my closet and I was putting my clothes on, and I looked at it and I said, "You know, I haven't worn a necktie in a long time. I think I'll wear a necktie," and it happened to be on a Thursday.
Okay.
So I think, I think I'll start just wearing a tie. On Thursday, I dress up on Thursdays and down on Fridays. So that's what I did. I put the necktie on, and the effect on people when I got to work was just profound. People were saying, "Oh, why is Pengelly wearing a necktie? Should we be wearing a necktie? Is he interviewing?" So it kind of caught on.
Yeah, they start,
Yeah, so people started saying, all right, Thursday, I better go down there and see what he's wearing. Go and find my cube and see what tie I'm wearing. Okay. 05, I left Boeing engineering, that sort of thing. And right around 07 is when I went on to Facebook, and a guy that I used to work with from Seattle challenged me that he would wear a necktie on Wednesdays and I'd wear mine Thursdays, and we would have this little friendly battle. I would wear something, he would wear something. Then it kind of evolved, of course. Facebook's all over the world, and as I was traveling, people would find out about it. I was in a hotel in Kashmir, India, and they're Muslim. And the one guy who probably ran the hotel asked, why is this one American wearing a necktie? He's used to everybody else being in, khakis and
casual,
khakis and stuff like that. And he got his answer, and he came over and he says, "I want to tie your necktie for you." Okay, so I took it off and gave it to him. He's tied it all up really nice, loosened it up, put it over my neck, straightened it all up, buttoned up my shirt and collar and that sort of stuff, and that was it. And then now people want to know, are you on Facebook? Yeah, I'm on Facebook. And it just kind of perpetuated that way.
Wow.
Then I began to think, all right, what necktie goes with what shirt, and what shirt goes with what pants, and what shoes should I wear with them? And I started getting into classic menswear, because that's usually how the men of the 20s and 30s, when my grandfather was of his age, they dressed very well. Now, if they went out, he was an iron worker, so if he wasn't doing iron work, if he went out for the evening, or certainly if he went to church, he always dressed up. He knew how to dress. He always had a fedora hat on and that sort of thing. So I learned, all right, I really admire that period of time, and I started to dress that way. But I live in Florida, so I dress flashier, color-wise. And then another interesting thing happened. I was walking through Merritt Square Mall one day, and I could see it. There was a young woman going the other direction, 50 feet away, and then she saw me. She changed her direction, came by, and she walked by, and she simply said, "Nice tie." And she continued on. She wasn't soliciting anything, wasn't anything like that, but I think, there are women out there who wish that their man, just once a week would dress up, dress something really nice, maybe take her out, something like that. And so I noticed that I'm getting a lot more attention from women, which is a good thing. And then let's see what. So I moved on to more and more elaborate kind of things, and of course Instagram came along and started putting on Instagram Thursday's tie, and that's how it all happened. Yeah.
There you go.
I always found out, when I first got into teaching,
Mm-hmm.
I started off as a substitute teacher, and I always found that if you wore a tie, it bought you the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
The first 10 minutes. It bought you the first 10 minutes, and what you did after that was completely up to you.
Mm-hmm.
But the tie would buy you 10 minutes.
Yeah.
They would go, "Oh, this guy's different."
Yeah, and when I go flying, I wear a suit,
Mm-hmm.
which shocks people. I get on board on it, and suddenly, even though it may be in coach, whether they understand it or not, I get treated better. Suddenly, I look like it must be somebody important, or at least he's takes the time to try and dress nicely. So I will treat him more nicely, and they're not even aware this is going on.
Interesting. Now that I think about it, I think I pretty much wear a tie every time I fly somewhere too. But I don't think about it. I like to fancy up too.
Mm-hmm,
it's nice. You feel better. You feel better when you're fancy.
But
up
I do think you treat it better.
Mm-hmm.
And it used to be back in the day, Disney had grad night where the graduates would all go, seniors would all go, and the guys had to wear ties.
That's true. Yep.
And Disney believed that if they wore ties, they behaved better.
Yeah, I think
there's something to that. I didn't think about it. There's something to that.
I had a guy I worked with in the Air Force. He said, "Look good, feel good." When you look good and you take some time to think about how you look and how you present yourself to other people, it shows you have respect for yourself and for the other people. I mean, nobody really wants to see me in wife beaters and flip-flops, right? But if I come out in a suit or something like that, then that people, whether they are conscious of it or not, treat you better.
Yes,
because you're treating them better.
Makes sense. So you have 2 stores. You have one in Cocoa Village and you have one in downtown Melbourne.
That's right.
And you have just recently jumped into a whole new world.
Yes,
which kind of goes along with the attire, kind of interestingly well.
Right. Well, that's another long story, but I'll keep it nice and short. Several years ago, I had this idea of having a high-end liquor bar that someone like Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack would like to visit. It'd be beautifully appointed, but it'd be again, the customer primarily would be women. A woman would like to come in and go to a bar and be left alone and have a drink, or maybe be with her friends, have a drink and be left alone. And that the men who did come into the bar would have to there would be a dress code. Okay. Be nice music, so on and so forth. If a group of women or a group of women wanted to be left alone, they would be left alone. Then I began to think, well, 2 years ago, next week, I stopped drinking liquor of any kind, and I thought, I feel a lot better without liquor in my system. So I thought, another activity that women seem to really like is dancing. And I like dancing. I've always wanted to do dancing, but I didn't know how to do any kind of dancing. And I fell in love with watching tango videos on YouTube. I like the music and I like the dance. So I started taking lessons, and then it started off at being $10 on a Sunday, and now it's bloomed into this. I dance tango and or ballroom dance 4 hours a week now. So I said, well, I really like this, and it works well. And it's a way of getting men and women together in a room and doing something healthier than sitting there and drinking. And it's an activity that I think a lot of people have a desire to do. And
no doubt.
Because I set the example the way I dress, it encourages men to dress up and come to the place and act like a gentleman, and the ladies act like ladies, and to get to dance and socialize and have a good evening. So I created a ballroom dance club called Tango and Ties.
And where is that at?
That's in Rockledge, the corner of Fisk and Barton, at the Thrifties. There's a anchor store is a Thrifties supermarket, and one of the side stores there is my ballroom dance club.
Okay. Very neat. Yeah, I keep meaning to stop by there. I'm going to stop by there. 100%. Yeah.
Well, Friday night, 7 till whenever is when we have our Friday night dance.
Okay.
If you want to come in there and see what it looks like.
I'll be happy to step on people's feet.
Yeah,
sure.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's plenty of feet to step on there.
It sounds reasonable. And I feel like we would be doing a disservice if we didn't also mention your wife and her business.
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't think people understand the benefit you guys are to the local community. Yeah, you have some cool businesses. You do some amazing things. Some of the best products you could ever get from olives and grapes. I mean, amazing stuff. I've bought there for a while now, and it's incredible stuff. Top notch, just like you're saying. But you guys are always giving back to the community. You're always doing stuff for people. You're always raising money for people and doing things. And your wife does the same thing through her business too.
Well, yes, my wife created a dog treat store, pet treat store, called Tales of the Barkery. Going back 31 years ago, 32, 33 years ago when we met, we both had a very deep love for animals, especially dogs. So when she retired out of being in aerospace and defense, she opened up her own little store, and she makes dog treats, bakes them there, makes them, bakes them, sells them right there. But the big thing is, many times we know the dog's name without necessarily knowing the
owner's name. Oh, no.
So we concentrate on the dogs that come in, and we all love the dogs and so forth, and then the dogs do the selling for us.
Yep.
And but it's certainly a passion between what I do and between the olive oil and balsamic vinegars, and then the dance club. She is intensely involved with animals, and that's all kinds of animals. Like she's there in Cocoa Village next to my olives and grape store. She gets involved with the local police department. They have their own trained dogs, and then she constantly putting on benefits to raise money for, let's say, Mid-Florida Sheltie Rescue, or let's say the people who rescue Dalmatians or Greyhounds or stuff like that.
It's like once a month at least, it seems like.
Yeah, and sometimes it's more often than that. It's like sometimes during the really hot season, it might be every Saturday.
It does. She has something going on all the time. Brilliant businesswoman as well.
Yes.
I mean, brilliant.
Yes.
I've met some business people, and she's no joke.
Mm-hmm.
She's one of the ladies that gave me brilliant ideas when it was time for me to start my nonprofit. Just watching her and the way both you guys, and the way you guys market yourselves, and the way you're consistently reaching out to people and getting different connections and doing different things with different people. I mean, it's inspiring stuff.
Yeah, thanks. It's our passion. It certainly is our passion, and being able to tie in good foods and high quality foods that we think benefit people, and then also doing the same thing with animals, dogs. She sponsors a lot of people who are simply rescuing dogs and that sort of thing, and then sponsoring them and helping them get the money they need to foster the dogs and then adopt them out, and all that kind of stuff. It's a great life.
We both have an army of Shelties too. He has an army of Shelties. I have an army of Shelties.
Oh, okay.
So we have that in common as well.
I think my Levi must be either the father or grandfather of your Opie, I think is what.
Yes. Yeah. We have a lot of Shelties that look exactly alike.
So. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
We know that our dog Levi, which is kind of like the supermodel of the Shelton sheepdog world, we know he was a stud of some sort, and we see so many of his.
Yeah, well, I have a dog named Blitz that looks exactly like him. I mean, they're both long-nosed Shelties. Which is in their big Shelties, which is very strange.
Okay.
You don't see many big Shelties. I mean, at some of those events, I see Shelties that are like this big. I remember asking the one lady, he's like, "Oh, how cute! How old's your puppy?" My dog's 10. I was like, "Oh, okay." All right. I thought that was like a brand new dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess mine are just monsters.
Yeah. Well, I pick up Levi. He's probably in the upper 20s, so maybe 25, 26 pounds.
Yeah.
That is kind of on the high end of things.
No doubt.
But they do get quite small, almost like teacups. But yes.
Yeah. I had no idea what I was missing before I had Shelties in my life.
Oh.
Yeah. We always had Chow Chows and Akita Chow mixes and stuff like that.
Right.
Had big dogs, and I had no idea what I was missing with Shelties. Just the coolest dogs ever.
They also rule your life, don't they?
Oh, they do.
Oh,
yeah. They are like shadows that never leave my side. And they're waiting. They'll hear my truck coming, and they'll be waiting on me at the door. And I play hide and seek with mine quite a bit.
Yeah.
They love it. They will track you. You can go like throw yourself in a closet real quick somewhere and not make a noise, and you see they'll walk through the house, kind of going. Oh, dag nabbit, he's at it again. Like, he's at it again. Where's he at? And they'll like, hey, there he is right there. We knew he was there the whole time.
Yeah, they can have good noses. They'll find you one way or another. They'll find you.
Freaking hilarious. All right, I gave you some homework.
Okay.
Let's jump into homework. So first off, do you have a topic, or are we going multiple topics?
Multiple topics.
Oh, I love it. So again, some potpourri.
Potpourri.
Yes.
Okay.
It's potpourri.
5 questions for Alligator Robb. If you could own all of Brevard County, land and water, and money wasn't a concern, what would you do? All of Brevard County, north to south, east to west.
If I could own it all and money wasn't a concern, what would I do?
Well, let's assume you allow the inhabitants to stay there.
That'd be pretty easy. When I'd turn every green space that was still a green space into a wildlife preserve that people could go visit if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was electrical shock if they left trash behind. And no, I think we have so few green places left. I would encourage people to build on what we already have. Use what's already there, and stop building. I think that'd be a pretty easy one.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah. Stop. I mean, and clean up what we have. You know what I mean? There's so many people out there right now that have these ideas on ways to do things. Man, we should be doing this, or we should be doing this to clean things up. But nobody's making a difference with the stuff that's already here.
Mm-hmm.
The pollution sources that are already here, nobody's stopping them. Nobody's taking the time to do anything about it. So I think that would be number one on the list. Let's fix what we have going on.
Yeah, and something I noticed when I was back during the lockdown, when I was driving from downtown Melbourne back to North Merritt Island, every time I drove by the water out there, not the ocean, but the
river.
The river.
Yeah.
Every week it got bluer and bluer. And it made me think of when I was down in Cuba last time, it was 2017. We went to Bay of Pigs. When you hear the name Bay of Pigs, it must be just nasty. But no, when we drove up on it, it was so beautifully blue, the most saturated blue I've ever seen in my life. And says that must be what Florida used to look like before it got polluted. And when it was saturated, if you gave me a photograph, I would have sworn it would have been photoshopped to make it look that blue, but it was honest. It was that blue. So anyways, that's what I kind of imagined if we could ever get back to being the water being that healthy.
Yeah, I sadly don't think that's ever coming, but I hope I'm wrong.
Okay.
I hope I'm wrong. I don't want to be gloom and doom about it, but I hope I'm wrong.
Next question. Marianne or Ginger, and why?
This is the funniest trivia ever. I'll let Bill answer this one. You answer this one.
Oh, well, it's definitely Marianne.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Marianne.
And why?
Down home girl. You got a movie star. There's a lot of work goes into it.
Yeah. More work than they're worth in the long run. Yes, I know.
Oh my gosh, that's a hilarious question.
No. You want somebody that's going to take care of you.
This is true. Fair enough. Yeah, that's a fair answer.
Okay.
I like it. Most
men and women will say the same thing. It's Marianne. Number 3, if the mosquito could be eradicated worldwide, would it harm any ecosystem?
100%. Yeah, it would. As big as a pain in the butt they are, of course, it would hurt a lot of things.
They're a food source to a lot.
They're a food source. Yeah, they're food source to so many things, not just bats and stuff, but spiders and all kinds of other insects, and it would be birds, and it would be terrible. Now, if you could eradicate mosquito-borne diseases, that would be wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, they go hand in hand. I'm trying to think of who I was talking to about this not too long ago. Mosquitoes, and man, there's no purpose for them. Well, there is. They're just not. Part of that purpose, unfortunately, is biting people. But it's just they gotta survive. And man, that's an interesting question. But no, you have to have mosquitoes. As bad as it stinks, and that's another. I'm pretty sure it's another pollution source. Very easily said, because everybody wants to spray them and get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
They're putting more pesticides out there, doing more things. But I mean, at the same time, they are disease carrying. So it's unless we have something to take their place, then no. And we've screwed up enough things by trying to get things to take other things' places.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I listened to a podcast by Sam Harris, and one of the questions that he'll ask his people he's in. Should we get rid of the mosquito? And hands down, everybody says yes, we should get rid of it, because he'll cite statistics like, I think deaths from mosquitoes overwhelm the number of deaths from any other source.
They do, yeah.
Okay. So he was thinking, if you get rid of the mosquito, then you save that many lives.
You wipe out so many things.
Yeah, and since his PhD is neuroscience, I would think he would be qualified as well as you would be to make that decision.
No, yeah, you can't be getting rid of mosquitoes. I mean, lowering the number of mosquitoes is one thing.
Right.
Wiping them out is a whole different set of issues. Now, in Belize, this is a question I need to ask Marissa. In Belize, mosquito-borne diseases like malaria are almost non-existent because there's some sort of plant that grows in the water that keeps them from getting malaria or transmitting it or something. So I need to ask that question, because if that's the case, why isn't everybody in the world growing that plant? Because I mean, if you're gonna wipe out malaria vastly in an area, why wouldn't you? But I need to figure out. I remember her talking about this once, but I don't remember what the plant was. Yeah, interesting. Mosquitoes. Yeah, who knows?
Okay. Number 4.
Somebody's got to feed them, Stan.
Somebody's got to feed them. Yeah. mainly it's humans. How many times in the history of the world has the land now called Florida been under a ocean?
In the history of the world. I have no idea.
I don't know.
I don't even know where to start on that one.
I don't know.
At least once.
Yeah. Oh, at least once.
At least once. How many times historically? When the way things are going, maybe not too long till the next time, but a couple times, I'd say, right? A couple times.
You know, that's kind of a loaded question for you. No, I kind of.
I'd say. I mean, definitely once.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Definitely once.
Well, you know, a lot of people are talking about global warming and stuff like that, and that seas are rising. Going back in time when I used to watch a lot of the NOVA program, the science program back in the 80s, it talked. One of the things, there was one of the shows talked about how often the oceans rise and fall, and the reasons why that. You know,
multitudes. Yes.
Yeah. So that's happened multiple times, and none of the times that the seas have risen and fallen they actually come up with a reason to point to and say this is what happened. The sun got hotter or something like that. So when they say that the oceans are rising or falling, it makes me think, well, it's happened before. So yeah, my house maybe in a couple centuries might be underwater right now, but I can't say that it's. I know this is going to sound really bad for a naturalist, but I can't say that it's unnatural for that to happen.
Yeah, I don't think anybody can say. I mean, you can say that there's causes of these things and they're happening, but it's hard to. Yeah, it's hard. I think it's probably a combination of everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's a natural flux to everything that we as humans see as unnatural. Because we want everything to stay the same.
We're definitely screwing up our part.
We want stuff to stay the same.
There's no question about that.
We're definitely screwing up our part, but the natural part of it, I'm sure it plays into it very much.
Yeah. Well, a while back I was reading or watching or something about where Manhattan now is. 10,000 years ago, there was a glacier about a mile thick.
Interesting.
If you go to Central Park, and I remember seeing this documentary talking about it. If you go to Central Park and look, there's this big rock and there's big gouges in the rock, and the person narrating it said that this is caused by glaciers that were moving over the top of this rock. I said 10,000 years ago. That's not very long. And my background in engineering, my passion was thermodynamics. So I'm thinking, all right. That was a lot of heat to melt that much ice. Where did the heat come from?
Good questions.
Yeah. So
those are all good questions.
So I when people talk about rising, falling, glaciers melting, or glaciers reforming, I'd say that's happened many times in Earth's history.
Yeah, buddy. I don't think it's far-fetched.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's far-fetched.
Yeah. Okay, last one. In terms of the health of flora and fauna, which species is the most important?
Oh, we have so many keystone species. I don't know if you could pick just one.
One time when I was out with you, you said that alligators are this.
They're a sentinel species for human health. Yeah, and they're also one of the species that can, of course, help out the environment as a keystone species. But man, between that and, I mean, you could argue gopher tortoises because they provide homes for hundreds of different animals.
Mm-hmm.
That's just thinking of things on land or in smaller water bodies. I don't know. That's a great question. Man, I don't know. I can make all kinds of argument. I can make some kind of argument for a mosquito.
Well, sure.
Speaking of which, yeah.
But the other thing too is Florida being as vast as it is, it's so different. I mean, you're talking about North Florida, might be a different creature than in South Florida, or Western Florida. There's just so many variety of things.
Yeah, I bet you it's plant. It's some sort of plant life. It'd be probably some sort of plant life more than it would be an animal. I would think.
So it'd be more towards the plants, okay?
Yeah, if I had to make a guess, I would say it was more towards the plants.
Yeah, I would think so.
I mean, look at what seagrass is doing to our river, not having it. You know what I mean? It's wiping things out. So I'd say it's probably something plant-wise.
I would agree.
But yeah, that's a very interesting question. Very interesting question, Stan.
Okay. Well, that was all my questions for you, sir.
All right, buddy. So tell people again, if they want to go find you guys, they want to go find From Olives and Grapes, where do they find you at in Cocoa Village and in Melbourne?
Cocoa Village is on 12 Oleander Street. If you know where the Playhouse is, straight out the front door of the Playhouse is Oleander Street, and we'll be on the right.
Okay, and in Melbourne?
In Melbourne, it's downtown Melbourne on 912A, East New Haven Avenue, downtown Melbourne. We used to be adjacent to Off the Tracks. Now it's another place. It's some sort of hatchet thing, throwing thing, and then the other side is Jessup's. So it's 912 East New Haven Avenue.
Okay, and your wife is right beside you in Cocoa Village now.
That's right. I'm on 12 Oleander Street, and she's on 14.
There you go. How cool is that? That's awesome. Well, thank you, Stan, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Good talking to you.
Yeah, good talking to you too, buddy. Anything good happening the rest of this week?
I'm sure there is. I just can't think of it.
We have our first 2 football games with MIC this week. I don't remember who we're playing, but we're playing 2 games in Melbourne.
Okay.
We have back-to-back games. We have a game at 9 o'clock, and then a little break, and then a game at 11 o'clock. So we've been concentrating on cardio, to say the least.
Yes, a little conditioning, huh?
Good grief, man. We've been going from like 3 to 5 in the afternoons, and it is brutal out there right now at that time of the day. Holy moly, man. Yeah, them kids are they're getting after it, though. Pretty good team. I honestly think we had a great team last year, but I think we might have a better team this year.
Oh, well, good. Good.
The kids are having fun, which is what matters.
That's good. Yep,
having matters. It doesn't matter if we don't win a single game as long as they're having fun and enjoying themselves.
Right.
Yep. So, anyhow, all right, guys. Well, thank you all for tuning in. You can find the EEARSS podcast on all platforms by searching EEARSS. We'll catch you all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.